Welcome back to Empower Families, 星光家园. Over the last few episodes, we've talked a lot about the child. We have discussed looking past behavior, understanding their nervous system, and supporting their fundamental development. But today, we're going to talk about the most important pieces of the puzzle. You, as a parent. When a child receives a diagnosis or struggles in school, the focus immediately goes to getting the child into therapy. But who is supporting the parents? Today, Joyce Moy is back to talk about her role not just as Janet's mother, but as a parent coach. Joyce, thank you for joining us and sharing your experience as a parent coach.
Thank you again for having me back for another episode.
Let's start with the basics. Parents are used to taking their children to speech therapists or occupational therapists. But what exactly do you do as a parent coach?
My role as a parent coach is there to support the parent on providing them, firstly, an understanding of what potentially could be the challenge that their child is going through and what they can do at home as a parent to support the child in that development. It does not overlap with them going to the speech therapist or the occupational therapist because that is an expertise area that I do not dwell in. And what we do is when you go for speech therapy or occupational therapy, we have to bear in mind that the sessions will usually be about 45 minutes. If you go to a session where the therapist would give you takeaway homework, you have something to do at home. Otherwise, you wait for the next week and then you go in for your second session and you are at a loss what you can do 6 days a week. If we calculate the number of hours that the child has with you, even if you are a working parent, you would have at least maybe, let's say in the worst case, 1 hour a day with your child after you come back from work and the child comes right from school. In 5 days, that would be 5 hours. And over the weekends, you definitely have more time with your child. And let's just give it that you're also a very busy parent and you only have 1 extra hour. So it's 2 hours. So your 5 hours plus weekend 2 hours per day comes up to 9, 10 hours, or sometimes even more. No therapy session can actually provide you that number of hours of intervention for your child. And for me, it's instead of you just waiting for your next therapy session, I hope that by understanding your child and working hand in hand with you as a parent, we will be able to speed up the intervention that your child needs to be back on track. That's my job as a parent coach.
That shift in mindset is huge. From a neuroscience perspective, we talk a lot about co-regulation, the idea that a child's nervous system feeds off the adult's nervous system. How does parent coaching play into this?
Under parent coaching, besides knowing what possibly could be holding back your child from learning, also as we converse together, dwell into the area of how the child is conveying their perception about the child's performance to the child. When a parent is having anxiety over the child's exam and wishes the child to perform better, when a child goes from receiving 10 marks in school and coming back after working tremendously hard with 20 points, the parent's expression usually is nothing exceptional. Some may just say, but you're still having a red mark. Some may just say, okay, try harder. Now, that's not motivating a child. If the child never put in the effort, they probably never felt it. But if it is a child who has been undergoing therapies and tried their best, that will signal to them is these things don't work. I have improved, but my parents still feel it's not good enough. But I have already spent so much energy reaching where I am. Same thing is when we go to work and we come back, we're exhausted with work stress, our temper comes up. And this indirectly just goes back to the child. And when you are agitated, you have most of the time end up with a very easily agitated child as well. This is something that parents need to learn and unlearn in order to help the child. And it can sometimes even be as simple as, I do talk to my child, I spend time with my child. But is analysis back to, how have you been spending your time with your child? Was it really one-to-one, talking with your child, trying to understand? Or was it homework time? Or was it just both of you sitting down and playing a computer game? All these, homework, playing computer game, do not contribute to communicating with your child, and it does not help the mental health of the child. What really helps is being there at that moment with your child, fully focused on the child.
So Joyce, by coaching the parent, how does this directly benefits the neurodivergent child? And what kind of changes did you see in the children?
So I'll just give some examples because examples are much easier to understand and to visualize. I had a parent with an autistic child coming to see me once. And whenever this child throws his tantrum, he would scream, yell, and even punch people. As I communicated with the parents, I realized, and mom spends most of the time with him, dad is just at work. So he hardly intervenes with the house matters. I got to know that mom was desperately trying to help the child, but obviously if day in and day out you have to live with an autistic child and a child who has tantrums and meltdowns all the time, it can be hard. So it came to a point where she just gets frustrated, and when she can't get the child to do or to understand what she wants out of the child, she would scream, yell, and even threaten with spanking. Noticing that, I spoke to the mother and I said, what I suspect could be happening is the child, already with limited ways to communicate, is trying to learn from us as an adult. And the response that you're giving when you're unhappy with him is the screaming and yelling and perhaps even the spanking. So to the child is, when I'm not happy, this is what I should do to show I'm not happy. So shall we now try to do it differently, which is when the child is angry, he may not understand, we assume he doesn't understand, but let's just try to calm ourselves down and say, you are angry and I don't think we can talk if you are angry, so I'm going to go away and I'm going to keep quiet. Leave the child alone and let them vent it out. Mom tried it. It definitely, she said, helped her, because you kind of cool down when you just sit aside and you just shut yourself off, you just cool down. So she became a calmer person. And over a few more months, she realized that the son was also much calmer. He didn't really yell and scream and punch as much as he used to anymore. And if he ever did that, it would have been someone who didn't understand him and kept provoking it, then it happens. I also had another kid where we were talking about communication just now. After completing all the assessments that I had, I found that there was really very little issue that required an intervention. And I just had a word with the parents to understand the child's daily life. So most of the time, she spends her full day in the daycare center. When she comes back with the parents, they are definitely exhausted with work, so they hardly speak. And weekends, they just try to make up by taking the kid out to play. There's very little me time between the two of them. And then I just told her and I said, well, why don't we just step back and let's just talk to the child. Simple words, since you say the child doesn't know how to express, very simple words, but just try to spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes every day trying to bring up a conversation and see if it helps. I said, because to be honest, there's nothing I think I can do for you. I don't see something that would require my skills besides this advice that I can give you. So the parent went off, and 6 months later, I just made a courtesy call to the mom and said, oh, how are you and your child getting along? Is she progressing? And mom just came back and told me, oh, she's doing very well now. So I said, so which therapy did you send her to? Because I didn't give her any therapy and I figured she might be looking for something. And she said, no, I didn't take her for any therapy, but I made it a point to finish my work earlier, come back, and every day try to talk to her. And weekends, instead of just going out where she plays on her own, is we try to do things together as a family. So you see, whether they are a neurodivergent child or whether they are a neurotypical child, I think the main thing is that bonding. If you give them a space to show you are there for them and you show it in a calm state, they will get it.
This is very good sharing. Thank you, Joyce. From what Joyce mentioned just now, it sounds like parents really need to get involved in order to see changes in their children. So what kind of challenges do you see parents will face when they go through your program? And what kind of suggestion you would give as a parent coach to parents?
I think the biggest challenge for a parent is time. Obviously, money is also a factor for consideration. But I think between money and time is something that we can manage. When we go for a therapy session, it's an hour. And as we have already calculated, our 1 week is many therapy sessions already. But I'm not expecting parents to spend 1 hour with the child. In my journey with Janet, to be very honest, staying with her for 1 hour, I will begin pulling my hair. So I have been to different kinds of therapies and I've looked at different solutions. They have come back and they say, oh, some come and as you read, before you even sign up, you decide not to sign up because as they say, oh, you have to do the day program, the full day program. You have to do 1 hour in the morning, another how much time in the afternoon, and then how much more in the evening. And you look at it and you say, I'm a working mother. I don't have the time. So you don't even consider signing up. And then you will have others who will come back and say, do this for an hour a day. You have to do it every day. And it's like, if only my kid can sit down for 1 whole hour, which she can't, I lose her. So from my own personal experience, I feel it. And I feel that the best way we can do, and what I have implemented with Janet that worked, and thereafter when I gave it to the parents, it worked, is a commitment of just 15 to 30 minutes a day with your child. Doing a structured education towards a goal, but that can also be squeezed in between your cooking time, your mopping time, whatever. It doesn't need to be rigid on the sitting at the table doing the job. But if a parent still finds such flexibility, 15 minutes or 30 minutes a day still a challenge, then they really have no choice. If they want to see the child improving, it's to increase the number of therapy sessions. And obviously, with the number of therapy sessions, it would also mean the cost in it. So the programs I designed especially for my parents are, it's only 6 months. And I feel that if in 6 months we walk the journey together, the child doesn't change in any way, then perhaps I do not have the solution to support your child. The next thing that we see is a commitment from the parent who has at least 15 minutes a day from the child. If the parent can't spare the 15 to 30 minutes, no one can help them. So the child will just have to be dependent on therapies, and it'll be a question mark as to how long you can sustain going to the therapy. We know private therapies are expensive. Government therapies are probably free of charge or just cost you 5 ringgit, but you have a long queue to wait. So the choice is really up to the parents to pick.
Yep, commitment is extremely important.
Yes,
right.
But it is not something that we can mandate. It is a parent's choice, and every family circumstances is different. So I just lay this requirement up front that this is what I need when you come under my parent coaching. And if it's okay with them, we start the journey.
Joyce, the work you do is so beautiful. You are taking all the wisdom Janet gave you and using it to light the way for other families. If you are a parent watching this and feeling overwhelmed, please know that reaching out for support for yourself is one of the best things that you can do for your child. Thank you, Joyce, for sharing with us on your heart and your expertise as a parent coach.
It's my pleasure, Felicia.
Now we're going to see you in the next episode of Empower Families 星光家园. In the next episode, we want to talk more about why is it that play is important for your child. Even though a lot of parents would think that play is a wasting of time, but no, it is extremely important for your child. So we will talk more about it in our next episode. Thank you for joining us today.